So we'll be shifting our focus from the injectable to the topic of SGLT2 inhibitors and DPP4 inhibitor, a perfect pair to destroy any attack. And to take us through this journey, we have Dr. Sabyasachi Paul, who is a DM cardiologist and working presently at BM Birla Heart Research Institute, Kolkata. Dr. Sabyasachi Paul has done his MBBS from RG Kar Medical College, Kolkata. Can we have a slide, please? So Dr. Paul has done his MBBS from RG Kar Medical College, Kolkata, and MD from NHL Medical College, Ahmedabad, and then his DM in cardiology again from RG Kar Medical College, Kolkata. Currently, he is working as a consultant cardiologist at BM Birla Heart Research Institute, Kolkata. He is a very respected and popular cardiologist in Eastern India and is an acclaimed speaker at various conferences. He has multiple publications in national and international journals. He is a fellow of Cardiovascular Society of Cardiovascular Angiography and Interventions, and his topics of interest include congenital heart disorders, coronary artery disorders, chronic heart failure, and cardiac electrophysiology. May I now request the speaker to kindly take over the topic and deliver his talk.
Thank you. Is my slides visible to everybody?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
For the network issue, if you permit me, can I stop my video?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So my topic is SGLT2 inhibitors and DPP4 inhibitor. There is a perfect pair to destroy an attack. Actually, so the mode of practice in the cardiology and also the diabetology, it is changing. So our aim to treat a diabetic patient is changing over time. And now our every motto is to treat a diabetic patient to decrease and to add a medicine so that there is a decrease in the vascular events. Because if you can look into the graphs, majority of the diabetic patient, whether he or she, they are dying from mainly the vascular deaths. The principal share of the death is due to the vascular causes. And we know nearly the 1/3 of the patients of the diabetes, they have the CV disease, and there is a 2 to 5-fold increase in the heart failure hospitalization risk from the type 2 disease. And the CV disease is the most leading cause of death in the type 2 DM. So the outcomes beyond the control of the HbA1c, this also matters to the patients because we need the molecules. We give the CV protections, we give the renal protections, and also decreases the body weight. We know the type 2 diabetes mellitus, it is a progressive disease, and as the disease advance and enter into the advanced stage, it changes the cardiac, renal, and the metabolic parameters in such a way that it gives the permanent loss to the organs. In the cardiac, it causes the it causes the hypertension. There is an increase in the hypercoagulation, atherosclerosis, vascular, ACS, and different thrombotic event. Along with the kidney, there is a formation of the chronic kidney disease that leads to decrease in the eGFR, albuminuria, electrolyte imbalance. Low hemoglobin anemia is another consequences. And the metabolic, it causes the hyperglycemia, insulin resistance, obesity, dyslipidemia, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the steatohepatitis. So the cardio-renal and metabolic system, these all are interrelated, of which the heart is the most metabolically demanding organ susceptible to changes in the volume and the metabolic changes. This kidney, this play a key role in the glucose and the volume homeostasis and the blood pressure regulation. The regulation of the energy metabolism by the liver, pancreas, and fat, it is essential for the healthy organ function of the organs, especially the heart and the kidneys. The CRM systems, these CRM systems are interrelated. Acute and chronic dysfunction in the heart, kidneys, and metabolic system, this may induce the dysfunction to the others. Each dysfunctional organs has the ability to initiate and perpetuate the disease in the other organs through the hemodynamics, neurohormonal, immunological, or the biochemical feedback pathways. So the type 2 diabetes is a risk factor for disease that's related to cardiac, renal system, and it is the interrelated changing systems. When there is a metabolic dysfunction sets in, this adds to the cardiac and renal burden. The metabolic abnormalities that affect the cardiac and renal disease progression outcomes, the changes in the energy metabolism, there is a changes in the hyperglycemia, dyslipidemia, there is an increase in the insulin resistance, there is altered hormonal milieu and increased adiponectin. This gives rise to changes in the heart in the form of heart failure, vascular dysfunction, atherosclerosis, and in the kidney there is a changes in the fluid retention, albuminuria, and there is a decrease in the kidney function. When there is a cardiac dysfunction sets in, this adds to the renal and metabolic burden. In the cardiac problem, there is a neurohormonal activation. There is a hypoperfusion that leads to hypoperfusion to the other organs. That leads to increase the volume overload, increase the arterial resistance. There is a change in the substrate utilizations and autonomic dysfunction. And these problems, this causes the hypertension, albuminuria, and declining in the kidney functions. Okay, the cardiac dysfunction, this adds to the renal and metabolic burden. The cardiac abnormality that affect the renal and metabolic disease progression and outcomes. The cardiac disease that causes the neurohormonal activations, the hypoperfusion, volume overload, increased arterial resistance, and changes in the substrate utilization and the autonomic dysfunction. This leads to the metabolic changes like the insulin increase in the insulin resistance, free fatty acid, and the dyslipidemia. And for the kidney, it causes the hypertension, albuminuria, and the declining renal function. For the renal dysfunction, this adds to the cardiac and metabolic burden. Just like the renal abnormalities that affects the cardiac and metabolic disease progression outcomes. When there is a renal is affected, it causes the increase in the activation of RAS and the nervous systems, the sodium and fluid retention, hypertension, arterial calcification, oxidative stress. This leads to the burden in the heart in the form of increase in the ventricular hypertrophy, heart failure, vascular dysfunction, and increase in the atherosclerotic heart disease. And also in the metabolic burden, increase the insulin resistance and abnormal glucose levels. The patients with type 2 diabetes, they have a multiple risk factors that contribute to these CRM diseases. About this causes the CV disease, heart failure, the type 2 DM, CKD. About the 55% of patients with the type 2 DM, they are also having the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Half of the type 2 DM reported to the obese, and this type 2 DM reduces the life expectancy by 6 years. So novel glucose lowering drugs and the CV protections, the drugs developed as a glucose lowering agents have shown in safety trial, the sum of these agents can provide the CV risk reduction, CV protection, and thus protect our patients with type 2 DM against the arsenic, CV, and CKD disease. And out of the different glucose lowering agents, the major adverse cardiac events, only the GLP-1, SGLT2, and part of the DPP-4 inhibitors, they have shown to improve the MACE outcome. And out of this, all this, the effects of SGLT2 inhibitors in the CRM, this is formed by the multiple mechanisms. The SGLT2 inhibitors, this causes the diuresis, glucose excretion, and natriuresis. And in between, the effect is that it decreases the myocardial sodium contents due to the inhibitions and the sodium and hydrogen exchange receptors. There's increase in the bioenergetics, decrease in the glomerular pressure, decrease in the left ventricular wall stress and left ventricular mass. This leads to the decrease in the inflammation and oxidative stress and fibrosis. It causes the decrease in the afterload, decrease in the preload, and increase in the hematocrit. And ultimately, the downstream observed events, there is a decrease in CV events and the improvement in the kidney function. There is a decrease in the blood pressure, decrease in the body weight, and decrease in the HbA1c. So SGLT2 inhibitors effects, they cause the beyond diabetes. It has been proved in the Emperor Reduce trial. The primary endpoint, the CV death and heart failure, there is a significant reductions in the DAPA heart failure. There is a primary endpoint, there is a sustained more than 50% eGFR decline in stage CKD, kidney and CV disease. There is a significant reduction. And patients with the heart failure, patient with the diabetic, it is not that they suffer from only the heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. They die from the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. And just have a little glimpse. The more than 50% of patients those who suffer from the heart failure, they actually suffer from the heart failure preserve ejection fraction. And this proportion of the heart failure to preserve ejection fraction is gradually increasing. And 30% of the HFF patients, they actually die within the 1 year of the heart failure diagnosis. And this EMPA, the Emperor Preserve trial, the empagliflozin, this has demonstrated a significantly meaningful 21% relative risk reduction in the composite primary endpoint and CV death in the Emperor Preserve trial. And if you can see the significant benefit, this was observed in the 18-day onwards after starting the 10 mg of the EMPA in the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction groups. There is a 21% relative risk reduction, absolute reduction was 3.3%, and 31 number needed to treat was only 31. And this empagliflozin on the heart failure outcomes, it has shown the benefits in the Emperor Reduce trial in the heart failure with reduced ejection fractions, and equally it has shown the benefit in the heart failure with preserved ejection fractions. So in case of the EMPA, the majority of the EMPA, if you see, if you see the empagliflozin, it demonstrates the significant benefits across the CV renal metabolic axis by decreasing in the 3-point MACE, and also decrease in the 32% decrease in the death by any cause. There is a 38% decrease in the CV death and 39% decrease in the nephropathy, and also the 46% decrease in the renal function. There is a different types of DPP-4 inhibitor, and we know the different multiple trials of the DPP-4 inhibitor. This came out in the recently in the CVOT. Majority of the trials outcome was only the non-inferiority trial, and both are, and majority are the safe, except the saxagliptin that was shown increase the heart failure rate. There is a vildagliptin increase the heart left ventricular volume. Only the linagliptin is showed there is a significant decrease in the albuminuria progression. So if we depending on the different CVOT trial, if you add the EMPA and the LINA, we will get the benefit of the 3 MACE, CV death, and heart failure hospitalization and kidney outcomes. This all showed the benefit in the form of EMPA, and in the case of LINA, this all the neutral. And the combining benefits of the two, the linagliptin, it has a CV and renal safety, and the EMPA, this is the renal protective and the CV protective. And so it is the benefits that we'll get in the form of, there is a multiple benefit in the form of metabolic, renal, CV, and the hepatic evidence. The hepatic outcomes, it will show that there is a 39% relative reductions in the incident and the arsenic nephropathy, the type 2 diabetes in the established CVD. In the Carbolina also showed there is a 14% relatively reduction in the progression of albuminuria in the type 2 DM patients. And in the CV, both the EMPA and LINA, this was the class 1 and class 2 recommended in type 2 DM at risk, who has the heart failure at risk. And also that there is a proven mortality benefit with the EMPA in type 2 DM. In case of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, it is the class 1 recommendations. And in patient with type 2 DM and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, EMPA significantly reduced the liver fat and the improved ALT level. And there is a no dose modification required in the hepatic impairment in both the EMPA and the LINA. But the clinical evidence in the combinations of the SGLT2 and the DPP-4 inhibitor as a fixed dose combination in India, not every fixed dose combination is equally CVOT proved. If you see the EMPA and LINA, these fixed dose combinations, it has a significant benefit in case of 3-point MACE, CV death, heart failure hospitalization, renal and hepatic parameters, and it is once in a daily. On the contrary, there is a DAPA and SAXA. We know there is SAXA, there is an increase in the heart failure risk. So the benefit of the DAPA will be decreased in the presence of SAXA. In case of Remo and the vildagliptin, there is in the VIVID study, the vildagliptin, it was shown that vildagliptin associated with increase in the left ventricular volume. So this combination is also not very much suitable. So it is a holistic approach. We need those kind of molecules which reduce the MACE, which reduce the CKD progression, which reduce the heart failure hospitalization, which reduce the risks of cardiovascular deaths, reduce the CV events with high CV risks and establish cardiovascular disease, and also risk factor that decrease the disease progressions. And recently, the ADA and the European science, there is a consensus statements that metformin should be used unless contraindicated or not tolerated. The patients who is the indicator with high risk for established atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, CKD or heart failure. When the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease predominates, there is established ASCVD. That is when increase the indicators for high ASCVD risk means when the age is more than 55, plus LVH or coronary or carotid lower extremity stenosis more than 50%. The preferable is the GLP receptor 1 agonist or the SGLT2 inhibitors. When there is a heart failure or CKD predominates, particularly heart failure with reduced ejection fractions, and the CKD when the eGFR between 30 to 60 or the urine albumin creatinine ratio more than 30, preferable is SGLT2 inhibitors or the GLP-1 if the SGLT2 inhibitor is not tolerated or contraindicated. But when you're using the SGLT2 inhibitors, we should know there is a sick day rule in patients of diabetes. Sick day rule means we should stop these medicines during any acute illness that can cause dehydration or acute decline in the renal function. These medicines, out of these medicines also present the SGLT2 inhibitors, and we have to stop in case of any dehydration or there is a possibility of acute decline in the renal function. And again, we have to restart this molecule 24 to 48 hours after, and once the feeding is better and patient is able to eat and drink. So just let me summarize. The understanding the interrelated cardio-metabolic and renal system and the summary. This CRM system, these are interrelated. Dysfunction in one organ or the system can induce and contribute to the dysfunction to the others. In the type 2 DM, the cardiovascular disease, heart failure, and CKD, these all are interrelated, and the presence of type 2 DM, it is associated with cardiac and renal disease progression. Holistic approach of diabetes care is necessary to address the severe renal and metabolic aspects of the disease. The guidelines and societies recommend the use of agents with CRM benefits such as SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP receptor agonist in the treatment of patients of type 2 DM. After the initiations of the SGLT2 inhibitors, and if you need to decrease the HbA1c more with the presence of keeping the CV benefit, our next option should be along with these two, the DPP4 inhibitor, and preferably if the patient can afford, the fixed dose combinations may actually have some benefit in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful talk. So now we'll be putting forward the questions which have been asked in the chat box to you, sir. Would you like to take them up right now? I'll be asking the questions then, which are there in the chat box.
Yes, in hospitalized patients, since we are on time less to reduce blood sugars, many a time we cannot find for timely after titration. How do we propose to address such issues? Dr. A.S. Choudhury.
Actually, this is a question from the previous talks, sir. So from this session, there's a question that between the two combinations, Lina and empagliflozin.
Okay, Lina and Empa and the vildagliptin
and remagliflozin.
Your choice.
What is
why?
Your choice and why?
Fine. It is. I have already shown. So this Remo and Vilda. This Vilda, there is a vivid study, and it showed in the vivid study that there is a minimal and there is a definite increase in the left ventricular volume in case of vildagliptin. But in that study, it is a very short study. This did not show even there is no increase in the heart failure hospitalization risk, but more study is upcoming regarding the Vilda. As this study showed in the increase in the left ventricular volume, so at present there is no evidence to support this combination of Remo and Vilda. So only the support of evidence, it is only in the presence of Lina and the Empa.
Okay, sir.
So
and the next question is
dose of Lina and Empa combination that is mostly used by you, sir.
And whether half tablet of 5 by
5
25
by
milligrams
25
or
or
entire
entire tablet of
510
510 mg as patients have difficulty in cutting the tab in half. Okay. Look, actually the 10 mg of the empagliflozin is the minimum most things that is needed. So if you want the benefit, you have to provide at least the 10 mg of the empagliflozin per day. So if you are adding the 525 or the 510, this combination is equally good.
Sir, from the recent publications or from the recent literature which has come up in the last 2 to 3 weeks, so what would be the practice at your center regarding the introduction of SGLT2 inhibitors in acute heart failure, considering the publications which have come up in the last 2 to 3 weeks, sir? In view of
Fine.
that, what is the present practice and what would you be looking forward to change in practice, if any, in the near future, sir?
Look, actually, the heart failure management is gradually changing. Recently, we actually rely on the 4 pillars of the medicine. For the 4 pillars, it means you know that one is beta blocker, one is aldosterone antagonist, another is ARNI or ACE inhibitor or ARB, and the 4th one that is SGLT2 inhibitors. The hospital practice, we actually start the SGLT2 inhibitors before the discharge in the acute heart failure setting after the patient stabilizes. This after the patient stabilizes, it is very vital one to start the SGLT2 inhibitors. Look, SGLT2 inhibitor has some benefit on the top of ARNI or the ACE inhibitor. It has a very decrease in the hypotensive effect, because in the patients who has been admitted in the acute heart failure in a hospital, so those patients who requires the very good amount of diuretic, if we add the ACE inhibitors or the ARNI, in those cases there is a very great chance of having the hypotensive response. This SGLT2 inhibitors, it does not have that initial hypotensive response, or it does not immediately decrease the eGFR or increases the creatinine in this group of patients. So after the initial stabilization, before the discharge, we start the beta blocker and the SGLT2 inhibitors and also the aldosterone antagonist. Depending on the blood pressure response and the creatinine, we add on the ARNI or the ACE inhibitors ARB, depending on the patient's tolerability. We add, it is the first follow-up, that is after 7 to 10 days after the discharge. If the BP permits, we start the ARNI at the time of discharge or the before discharge. If the BP is in the borderline, we start the ARNI in the follow-up. But in the majority of the patients, we try to add all 4 pillars of the heart failure medicines, and of which SGLT2 inhibitors and the beta blockers before the discharge we start. This is our majority of the practice nowadays.
Thank you, sir, for taking all the questions and answering them lucidly. Are there any more questions? If anyone would like to ask, we'll have some more time. So would anyone like to ask any further questions? So if there are no more questions coming, like all good things come to an end, at least temporarily, for the start of a newer something better. Similarly, this year's NCMU, the National Cardiometabolic Update 2021, is almost at its fag end today, and may now request the organizing secretary, Dr. Shubham Das, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. May I request Dr. Shubham to kindly take over.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you to Dr. Sabyasachi Paul for giving us a elucidative talk on this quite an, I would say, a treacherous journey of this SGLT2 and DPP4 inhibitors from the view of a cardiologist standpoint. Well, it was quite a nice hearing from you. And thanks to Dr. Bodhayan Dashmunsi for wonderfully moderating the session. And I would just like to conclude this session by thanking all my respected speakers whom we had the privilege today to hear from them at this National Cardiometabolic Update. I would like to thank Dr. Karthik Balachandran Dr. Jayant Panda, Dr. Pratish George, and Dr. Unnikrishnan, of course, and Dr. Sabyasachi Paul. Thanks to all of you. My sincere thanks on behalf of the entire organizing team for taking time out of your busy schedule and having us, having us listen to your, deliberations.